Yes, hell is real. Period. You are absolutely insane if you don't believe that hell isn't real.
And the first thing I noticed were these demons, things. They're the most grotesque, smelliest. Hollywood can't even get close to how these things look. They're so deformed. They had legs and twisted arms, but they had a reptilian look, a reptile look to them. And their eyes were glowing yellow. Some of them eyes were red. Some of them were like 13 feet tall. Some of them were this big. They're everywhere, and it's just bugs, there's spiders.
A very, very, very high level of fear, and it remained that way the entire time. And it wasn't because nothing actually about the experience made it scary. Fear was literally just a part of my being. I could not be nothing but absolutely scared. And I'm talking about scared or fear, like to the point where when somebody just scares you, you get immediately scared. You may burst out, you may yell or something because you're scared, and then it begins to come down. But I'm talking about fear that stays at that level, as if somebody had you just got caught at the highest point of how scared you were, or what fear you had, and that's all that you have the entire time. It doesn't come down. So you're like, feel like as if you basically shouldn't be able to breathe, or be normal, even handle yourself to assess anything, or to use your cognitive skills or anything like that, because you're literally in this much fear. You're still able to just be in this much fear and not know what's going on.
But it looked like part man, part wolf, part bear, and part pig or hog. If you took all of those and mashed it into an entity, its skin was just rotting and disgusting yellow, and its teeth were just razor sharp. They were all crooked and nasty, but razor sharp. And then its eyes were like a lizard, but they were blood red. Blood red.
What's the word? So I wanted to come to you and shed some light on, and drop a gem on a situation you might not think about too much. And what it is I'm gonna bring you 4 people's videos that had similar situations, and I just want you to compare what they saying with each other. Now, this is not for views or nothing like this. This is just some info that if it helps a few people, my job is secure, my job is done. Just want y'all to check this out, and just while the video is going, I just want you to believe what they saying is true. Just believe what they saying is true. We're going to come back after the video. We're going to recap.
Everything went blank, dark. But this kind of darkness is not a darkness that's here on earth. This darkness is alive. It's a gripping darkness. I mean, it was so dark, like I was saying, that you can blindfold yourself, put yourself under the ground, blindfold yourself again, and it still doesn't compare to this type of darkness. It's a spiritual component to the darkness that I was in. But the weirdest part was when I fell backwards, I started instantly falling forward. I was falling down face forward as I fell backwards. That was the weirdest part. That's the spiritual aspect of it. But as I'm falling, I don't even know how to measure it. They say the speed of light is 186,000 miles per second. That was faster than that. It was just going. But the further I'm going down, just falling and falling, the more and more I felt like I was getting stripped of everything. I knew I was getting stripped of the things that God gave me that I took for granted, like hope, love, fellowship, patience, everything. The further I was falling down fast, everything was getting stripped from me, and I was getting more and more afraid. But this is a different type of fear. It's not a fear like here on earth. It's a different fear that you have to experience. Like the Lord says, there's a difference between reading and talking, but experience. But there's no other way. I'm gonna try to get close as I can to explain this, because there's a lot of things spiritually that can't be put in words here on this earth, in this dimension, so to speak. But as I'm falling, I'm feeling more and more frightening. I started hearing, the first thing I noticed was laughter around me. As I'm falling, it was like this laughter, and it was like these giggling little but the laugh itself, they were laughing, I felt it. It was a different type of laugh. It was a demonic hatred. Like I just knew whatever was laughing at me hated me more than like with anything you can even describe. But as I'm falling, I hear this laughter. The second thing that caught my attention was this horrible smell. See, people don't realize when you leave the physical body, you still have your five senses. You still have them, but the thing is they're upgraded and modified. They're very more modified. I mean, times a million. Your sight, your hearing, your vision, your touch, everything is, you still have those things. So this is not a fairy tale where people, been taught that when you die, you just pass away. Everything's completely different. Yeah, it is different, but your senses are highly modified. But I smelled the smell, and the smell, I can even just talking about it right now. So I'm sorry if I pause a little bit, because this, a lot of this comes back to me and I still get a little emotional, but the smell alone is so bad. Like, I can't even describe it. There's nothing. You can have 1,000 corpses and dead animals and whatever you want to put into the mush. It smells like Febreze compared to what I smell in hell, the way it smells. So as I'm falling, then I notice a little light, and it was so small, it was a pinpoint of light. And I heard, and as I'm falling, it's getting bigger and bigger. And then that's when it hit me. I knew. And I thought it was a fairy tale. I'm not going to lie. I just thought hell was a fairy tale. I thought it was a place of fantasy. I thought it was a scare tactic used by religions. I knew. I said, I'm going to hell. See, time doesn't exist over in eternity the way it exists here. So all the time that I'm falling, people say, how would you have time? Time doesn't exist the way you can't even fathom it. Eternity, it has no time. So as I'm falling, I knew this was hell. And then I heard the screams of the people. The screams and the yells of while as I'm falling, and this portal, may I call it the portal, was getting bigger. You can just hear, and I knew it had to be billions, hundreds of millions of billions of people down there. I mean, screaming, and then their screams are gut wrenching. The same way I heard those demonic laughs, I can feel it in my gut and feel it in my soul. Those screams were worse because it was suffering. It was blasphemous things being yelled. It was just horrible, people begging for one more chance. I mean, the thing is, when you're in the spirit, you can hear 1,000 noises at one time, but you can decipher and know each one, whether they're playing simultaneously or not. You can distinctively know and hear everything. Like I said, it's hard to explain, but that's the closest I can get to it. But as I fall and I see this portal, it looked like an old cave, like I'm entering an old cave system. Okay, and then that's when I felt the heat. See, now I'm looking back on it. It probably already was hot when I got closer to it, but I was so shocked and so terrified by everything else, I didn't pay attention to the heat until I actually got into the first portion of the portal. And then that's when the heat hit me. On top of everything, it was just a bombardment of everything. And here on earth, in our physical bodies, we feel things separately, meaning like our nervous system. So if you get poked in your back, you get punched or something like that, you can feel it just kind of in that spot. But no, there you feel it all simultaneously at one time. Pain, everything. It's your whole body, because now I'm learning I was in my spirit body. I was so used to being in my physical body, it didn't make any sense to me. But when I felt this heat, it's a different fabric. It's a different fabric of heat. It's not like how you burn your finger here. It's a spiritual component to it, because it's a different type of hot. I don't even, I'm trying my best to describe the heat, but the heat is it's beyond. I mean, just say if I wanted to put it on a temperature scale, I would say 12,000 degrees and up. And nothing physical here, especially in the flesh, could withstand that. So, but as I'm falling and I enter this portal and I feel the heat, I'm hearing the yells, it's like just so overwhelming. And at this time, by the time I got to the bottom, I just knew I was in hell, and I knew I was going to hell. But once I passed the portal, all I remember is when I hit the bottom, I didn't feel anything when I first hit. So I'm trying to think, I was asking, was it the Lord that softened the blow when I first hit? But when I fell and I raised my eyes, it felt like I had no strength. I felt like I hadn't eaten for like months. I couldn't breathe. It was horrible. Just a feeling of just nothing. And then, but the only thing that kept coming to my mind was, and I know the Lord did this purposely, was thinking that everything that I took for granted, movement, a drink of water, just to have the ability to move my arms just freely, the ability to breathe, all the things that we take for granted, it was going through my mind. I knew it came from God. I just and I knew I took it for granted. And there, first thing is I look over. See, it was dark But I'm trying to, wonder if the Lord was making me be able to see. But the flames itself were emitting so high from these pews, like these vents from the rocks. And that's another thing too I want to add. I don't want to move too fast, but one thing I do want to add. For some reason, I knew I was still here on Earth. I still knew I wasn't in outer space somewhere. I wasn't under space. I was in a different dimension, but I was still on Earth. I knew that. I knew it's here on Earth. So the Lord is right. Hell is a place on Earth. The scriptures are right. It is here on Earth. It's just a different dimension. So as I'm looking around and I'm just already, but I see when the flames, they come up and then you can see the illumination from the flames. You can see. And the first thing I noticed were these demons, things. They're the most grotesque, smelliest. Hollywood can't even get close to how these things look. They're so deformed. They had legs and twisted arms, but they had a reptilian look, a reptile look to them. And their eyes were glowing yellow. Some of them eyes were red. Some of them were like 13 feet tall. Some of them were this big. They're everywhere. And it's just bugs, there's spiders, and there's just everything. But what really caught my attention was these pits everywhere. And this one demon glanced at me and he started laughing. But down in the pits were just people. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just people. But then I thought it was just one pit. As you really look around and the flames illuminate all of the space around, there's, I would say, hundreds of thousands of pits. And then within each pit are thousands of people. Okay. And then around the pits, you have nothing but these grotesque demon reptilian or reptile-like things, making sure they don't crawl out. It was horrible. You have people who look like bone. I would say they look like bones. Some of them were bones with actually flesh hanging off, which is incomprehensible to some people to even imagine how, but the things that I saw and the tortures that I saw is that you regenerate. So just say if your arm falls off, it'll grow right back so you can get tortured again. It's a place of pure torture, like torture. Hell is no relief. There's nothing. But as I'm looking at this one demon, he was about 8 feet tall. He looked at me and laughed. And then all I remember was these thousands of maggots, worms, and they're like thick. They're thick. They're thick as soda cans. Okay, they're not like regular maggots here in this dimension. They are thick and they're big, and they started to chew at my feet. And then once it was a few of them, when I looked down, it was hundreds of them. They started to make a mound around me up to my knees of these demonic maggots. I don't even know how to explain it. But that was the least of my worries, because I felt getting a hand picked me up from the back of my head and it flung me and it flew. And now as I flew, okay, now remember, you have no energy, there's no nothing. Even just when I laid down, I couldn't get back up. But now I'm realizing, in hindsight, that the Lord was with me, because a lot of these demons, they wanted to attack me. They wanted to rip me apart. And I can just feel the hatred that they have for mankind, the hatred that they have for us. It is beyond anything. It is beyond, and you can feel it's ancient, and you can feel it is powerful. It is power in their hate. It is so powerful. Yeah. All right, 1 second. Okay. Because people don't understand that these demons feed off our depression. They feed off our anxiety. They feed off our aggression. They feed off our hate. They just feed off of us. So that's why they call us in the background. They don't have the power to make us do it, but they have the power to influence situations that make us do these things. And they feed off that. And that's one thing I've learned. The hatred for us. That's why I love all mankind. Because the hatred they have for us, it would make you love all mankind and stick together against these beings. Really. We have, all the visions that are caused are just an illusion. But yeah, that's one thing. That's what I learned from that. But as I was laying on the ground, I'm sorry, I just had to just reiterate that point. But as I'm laying and I can't get up, and the thing is, in reality, I wasn't breathing because there's no oxygen down there. I think it was more mental, psychological, because I was so used to being in the physical. So I'm trying to breathe, and I'm realizing. So I'm barely standing up, and that's when I think the Lord showed me it was the whole hell of this section, because hell has sections. I'm going to explain that soon. It has many sections. It was illuminated for me where I can just see everything. And when I tell you, the tortures, the wow. I mean, it is beyond the stretch of your imagination. And people say, you know, why would God let that happen to us? Why did God send you there? Why did they blame God? But they never blamed the enemy for anything when they were here on this earth. But one thing that I noticed when you're in hell and when you're eternally in a spirit body, you can look at a person inside hell and you know why they're there. You instantaneously know, you know why that person is there. I've seen people there for unforgiveness. I've seen people there who thought they were the best in the church, saying, why did you do this to me? I've seen pastors there. I've seen even some preteens in hell. I've seen a lot of people who think they're doing the right thing, but they're no. Like, for example, the first lady who I saw getting tortured individually, not the people in the pits. There were two demons, and they were laughing, these reptile things, and they had her mouth, and they stretched her mouth so far back, like to rip her jaws open, and they were pouring lava down her throat and sticking her throat with spears and just like these old ancient looking rusty daggers, and they were getting a kick, and it was horrible. But then the fact is, she turned to bone, she was breaking up, and then she would rejuvenate. And they would do it all over again and over again and over. And they were taking turns. They were inviting other demonic spirits. They were laughing. They were having fun torturing this lady. And when I looked, and I really knew, this has to be the Lord, I already knew why she was there. She was there because not only was she a gossiper, she was gossiping about people. She got many people life turned because of her tongue, and she was an alcoholic. And I'm starting to, there was a theme in hell I started to notice, because people commit a lot of sins on a wide spectrum. But the one that sticks out the most is the one that's going to rectify, that you're going to get inside hell. So they say, you know, a person who is promiscuous, and that's another one. I'm going to keep it not explicit, but I saw a young lady in hell. There were demons literally taking turns having sex with this woman. And when I say it's not regular sexual intercourse, it was beyond mind. I mean, I can't say too much to describe, but all I can say is that she was very promiscuous when she was here on this earth, and they were torturing her in ways that you can't even imagine. So, yeah, I was just saying the biggest sins that I started noticing that pattern. The biggest sins that you have, because like I said, everybody sins on different spectrums and think it's nothing. It doesn't. No, everything counts. Everything counts. And it's not God, our Father, up there taking a list of you. And also says in the Bible that the flesh will testify against itself. So people, that is real. Your flesh testifies against you. Your flesh, you desires. That's why he always tells us to get away from pleasing our own flesh, because we're going to put ourselves there. The Lord cries, the Lord heart aches for us, every one of us that go to hell. He does not want that. He does not want that for us at all. It really tears him apart to see us in that predicament. But it's back to the tortures, unfortunately. That was only one section. And I thought, and that's mind blowing. That was only one section with the pits. So I thought that, no. And I think the Lord was with me. I don't know if anybody ever had a dream before where you couldn't see the person's face, but you know somebody was there standing with you. I know the Lord was with me, but I never saw him. But I knew he was the one directing me and protecting me, because these things wanted to eat me and tear me apart. But the second thing I remember is another section of hell. And that's another thing. When you move in hell, there's no really walking around when he's showing you. It's like you instantaneous. It's like teleportation. When I teleported to this other part of hell, okay, I saw these cells, okay, and I grew up in skyscrapers, uptown Chicago. Grew up on the 16th floor, and these things were taller than that. These things had to be 50 stories tall, and it was a row of them, all the way as your eyes can see, looking up. And they are open old bar cells, and there are people in them. There are people in them. Some of them look like skeletons. Some of them were just burned like to a crisp, and they're cursing God, and they were just very angry to be there. There was no repentance. There was no asking for another chance. Those are the ones who were just very angry at our Lord. They were very angry. Some of them even started looking like almost a reptilian look because of the hatred coming out of them. And also I noticed some of them been there for thousands of years. See, that's the thing. People don't understand. Time doesn't exist in eternity. It doesn't. The clock stops. And I realized that. I saw people there who were there 2,000 years, 4,000. You just know the ancientness of it. I saw all different languages. It doesn't discriminate. The devil doesn't discriminate at all. The whole end point is to get you there. That's it. So all of this, while we're messing around with racism, we're messing around with judging others of economic status, which is just an illusion, by the way. It's about spiritual currency. It's an illusion and it's a trap to get us there. And when I saw those cells, that's when things started to awaken to me. I saw mostly those who were in those cells were people who dabbled in witchcraft, those who dabbled in Santeria, those who dabbled in all kind of tarot cards, those who wanted to know the future and astrology. I just know, like I told you, once you go there, you know. You can just look at a person and you know while they're there. And mostly I saw there was a thing to those people in those cells, and those are the people who worship other gods or the doctrines of demons, is what they call also in the scriptures. And what's so terrifying about that is that here, because I have my brush with Santeria, unfortunately growing up, and they promise you everything materialistically, but what they don't tell you is once you worship these demons, now that I know they are, I didn't know that before. They make it seem like they're positive, they're good, they're here to help mankind. The 9 principalities, and they'll give you all the wealth you want. You do these rituals and stuff, but you don't realize you owe them. And what you owe them is beyond this earth. You're going to have a spot. They have a spot waiting for you. It reminds me of people who say, well, I didn't know the law. I didn't know. But if you go to court, you will still go to jail. Ignorance is not a way out of it, you all. So I'm just telling you, watch what you do. Watch what you confer, because psychics and all of these mediums and things of that nature, of course, they're going to tell you things that are right on purpose, because they call it familiar spirits, which I saw them ascending and descending from hell. But I will get to that too. But just be careful, you all, playing with witchcraft, any astrology, any things of that nature, because they have a place just in hell for you.
So I'm at home, literally just sitting there. I blink my eyes like this. Hell. That's what I see. Hell. And it is somebody I know that is there. And I know this person because I have this feeling. So that's the first thing. So that was hell. But the one that had me so shook that I had to, like, literally, I'm at work. I was actually late coming to work. But the one that just had me shook and had me, like, fighting my sleep, because I was like, oh, I don't want to see that again, was the one last night. Y'all, to this moment right now, I can't, like, let me just tell you what happened. I'm falling asleep because I've been tired, because I've been up for a while, because things have been, I constantly dream. And some of these dreams are definitely the enemy. Like, he came to me in a dream to try to show me, like, a demonic face. It kind of like Smeagol, but he had, like, a distorted face. And his face just looked like, his nose was, like, not a nose, almost like a serpent nose. And his mouth looked crazy. And the thing was, like, looking all creepy and stuff like that. And, see, that wasn't the thing that bothered me. Like, don't get me wrong. It's pretty crazy, but that wasn't the thing that bothered me. I, like, woke up out of my sleep. I plead the blood of Jesus, and I went back to sleep. Let me tell you the one that, like, kind of had me, like, I was asleep, and I was in hell. Not because of something that I had did, and I don't know if I was, God allowed me to see this or whatever happened. But, like, even right now, you guys, so what happened was I'm in hell. I'm seeing the flames. I'm seeing everything that's going on. And I was able to feel how hot hell was, because it was burning. It's like somebody had put something on my back. Y'all, it was so hot. I woke up out my sleep and touched my back to make sure I still had a back. Like, for real. Even right now, you know how, like, you know how you chew bubblegum and it's real minty, and then you breathe in and it's like real coolness or whatever? That is what I literally feel on my back right now as I speak to you guys. And it was very quick. It made me wake up and go, Father, did I do something wrong? What's going on? I am not a dream interpreter. So I don't, I can't tell you guys what this means or what happened, but all I can say is hell was definitely hot. I've seen it a couple times this week. Like, y'all, I gotta show y'all something. Look, my hand is, like, literally shaking, and the phone is shaking because y'all do not want to go to hell. That's all I'll tell you. You don't want to go to hell. If I'm supposed to warn you guys, I'm going to warn you. You don't want to go. Repent today. In the Bible, it says he will come as, if you are not prepared, he will come like a thief in the night. And that is it. And he's taking everybody. I've been baptized. I stay in my word. I love Jesus so much. If I am here to tell you about these things, then so be it. But you guys, again, I am not lying. Look at these bags, y'all. This whole week I've been able to see demonic creatures. I've been able to see shadows. I've been able to close my eyes and see hell. Right now I'm praying for peace. I used to be one of those people who used to watch all those hell videos because I was like, oh, this is interesting. I haven't watched them in a while, and I'm not gonna watch them because I truly believe God has literally showed me. The first thing I ever saw was I was outside, and now that I'm able to see like things, like right now, y'all, my back, like literally my back right now feels like it's like cooling down. Why would my back need to cool down if all I've been doing is slumbering all night? I am not gonna forget it. Again, this is something that I had a dream about shortly. And, you know, all I could do is pray on it. I know my father is very loving and caring. So that's why sometimes I say, you don't know if this is from the enemy. I don't know what it is, guys. You guys can comment below or ask me questions if you guys need more details about some of the stuff I saw, which I don't think you should ask. Just know you don't want to be there. And pray for your brothers and sisters. Pray that they find Jesus. Just pray that we're stronger, God. Just pray, okay? That's all I can say. Just pray. Be a prayer warrior. Let everybody know. And trust me, when I say this, it has to be, and I have to pray on it, because sometimes I don't know if this is from the enemy or if it's from God, but I don't understand why the enemy would try to scare me about hell, because it's pretty much like, I don't know what's going on. But just know that God does love you, and he has made promises, and he will sit on those promises. Period. You don't want to be there at all. So again, if you haven't subscribed, clearly this is about to be a journey for me, because like I said, look at these bags. The dreams are the dreams. If God says, yes, share that dream, I'll share it. Some dreams I know that I need to keep to myself. Some dreams I don't even think you guys want to know about them, because you'll be like, what? Yes, hell is real. Period. You are absolutely insane if you don't believe that hell isn't real. You're crazy. So if there's a hell, that means there's a heaven. For you atheists, if there's a hell and there's a heaven, that means it was created somehow. Not by a big boom theory or something else, by God.
I always lay on my side, so I rolled to my side, pulled the sheets over, closed my eyes, and faster than you could snap your fingers, I was no longer in my body, and I was no longer on earth. It's very important to tell everybody, because I know some people will comment that, or assume, oh, it was just a dream. It was a really bad dream. Let me tell you something. My entire life, I've been a light sleeper. I never once in my life have laid down, closed my eyes, and boom, I'm asleep, ever. I don't care how tired I am. I've gone days without sleeping, absolute exhaustion, and I still have to get my mind to wind down. I'm that kind of sleeper. I closed my eyes. There was no introduction. There was no warning. There was no nothing. Instantly, I was engulfed in flames. And they were coming across from my right to my left and absolutely consuming me. Before I had a chance to think, I was instantly in absolute chaos. And the pain, that's another thing I want to share. In your dreams, you don't feel pain like what I was feeling, because it's a pain beyond physicality. the pain I was feeling in that moment, if I had been feeling that here in this physical body, my brain would have shut down because it would have been on overload. The pain that encompassed me and consumed me was so horrendous. I instantly began screaming, and I'm talking screaming, you guys. And if you don't mind, Julie, there's only a couple times, and this is one of them, I have to be graphic because the severity of hell and the horrors of hell, you are the only way I could describe this screaming. You have to understand, I'm a man, right? I'm a man. Like, I didn't cry out like a man. I didn't wail like a man. The pain had me so bad. My head went up and I began screaming like a woman who was being tortured. And I'm sorry, but that is the only possible way to describe it. Anything else, I would be undercutting it. I was screaming like that. And it was a torrent of flames. And the flames, to my understanding, they kind of change colors the hotter they get. It could be a dark red and orange. These flames were so hot that for the most part, it was white and kind of pinkish. It was that hot and it was that intense. And now I know. In that moment, it was as if, and I've known of at least one other person, Bill Weiss, the 23 Minutes in Hell, his experience was the same, that it was in that moment, it's like the Lord rewires your mind so that you're a person who is not a believer. You're a person who wants nothing to do with God. And now here you are spending the rest of your eternity like that as well. So at first I'm like, where am I? What is this place? What's going? All these thoughts are hitting you at the same time. And to say panic doesn't even describe it. Your body's completely just being burned and roasted alive. And so I remember I looked down at my left arm because of the pain. It was just my entire being. It wasn't just the burning from the outside to the inside. It was the whole thing at once. And I looked down at my arms and I could not believe what I was seeing. My arm was a skinny, shriveled, decaying, it looked like a corpse. It was discolored, like it had been rotting forever. I just could not believe what I was seeing. And the spirit flesh, it's hard to describe the spirit realm because as a spirit, you're not just some misty thing. You're a body, but you're a spirit body. It's just different than our physical bodies, but it is a body nonetheless. I had a body, but it was a spirit body. And my spirit flesh, if you will, it was burning and sizzling, and then chunks of it would just fall off and hit the floor. I'm freaking out. And I remembered I looked over to my right arm, and it was the same thing, just searing fire coming off and pieces of flesh burning and falling to the floor. But when I looked back to my left arm, the flesh that had just fallen off had regenerated, and it was burning and falling off all again. And I realized in that moment that whatever part of your body you're not looking at is regenerating so that you can watch it burn and fall all over again. In addition to this screaming, it was just a scream that doesn't end, scream. But at the exact same time, and again, this goes back to how vastly superior the spirit realm is over the physical realm. It is not limited at all. No limitations. So multiple things happen at the exact same time. And in those realms, it's just the norm. It just makes sense. But then you come back here and now it doesn't make sense again. I'm telling you, when you're in the spirit, it makes sense. Eternity makes sense. It all makes sense. So I'm screaming, but at the exact same time I'm screaming, I'm suffocating. And these toxic, sulfurous fumes, just this putrid stench of rotting flesh, feces, sulfur, anything like that was just burrowing up my nose. And I can only describe it like if you had been forced into a vacuum chamber and all the air's gone, and you're suffocating, and you have that panic, right? I can't breathe, and you're panicking, but you don't die. You're perpetually stuck in that state of panic. I'm going to die, but you don't die. And then while all that's happening, someone releases toxic fumes into that gas chamber. And your lungs take in the fumes out of desperation. You just suck it all in, but it's poisonous, it's acidic, it's sulfurous, it's toxic, it's wretched, rinsing. And you're sucking this in out of desperation, but you're not suffocating. That was exactly what I was experiencing in that moment.
And this felt real. I mean, it didn't feel like, wake me up, I'm in a dream. You felt like you were in this place.
The thought of wake up, this has to be a dream, never even occurred to me. Never even occurred to me. Just like if I know we witness certain horrible things here on earth, and I know the brain kind of freaks out about it. Did that just happen? It was not that there. There was no, this has to be a dream. This has to be because it was so far beyond this reality. When you're in the spirit, you simply grasp things in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And
did you see anything else?
Yeah. So what I began to see in front of me, because you're just this, you're frantic. You're almost like a rabid animal. You're almost on the verge of insanity because you're just so terrified and horrified and all of this, and in such an indescribable pain, and it's happening at the same time. You're just desperate. You're desperate for anything. And so I'm just looking around, and then I could start to see that I was actually in like a tunnel or a chamber. And if I had to guess, it was, kind of like a cavern, if you will, about 25 foot across and overhead, just going around like that. And then I saw I was in a seated position up against the wall. And I was chained too. I was chained. My ankles were chained. I was chained to the wall. I knew that too. And instantly I knew that where I was, there was no water, there was no air, there was no light, and there was no life. Those four things absolutely do not exist whatsoever where I was. And it can sound confusing in this realm, but I'm telling you, when you're in the spirit realm, it's not confusing. You're permeated with darkness. It's not just all around you, it's in you, in your soul and your spirit, that outer darkness that Jesus warned of. You're experiencing that darkness of being absolutely out of the presence of the light of God. And now you're in absolute darkness. And it is blacker than any black that could ever exist here on earth. Even the furthest reaches of the universe don't touch how black it is when you're completely separated from God. However, you do see. You see everything, and you have to see. I knew that I didn't have eyeballs. All I had were empty sockets. You just know these things. And so I couldn't close my eyes. I had to watch everything. I didn't have ears like these, just holes in the side of my head. So I had to hear everything. You have to experience everything, and you experience it. It's not an exaggeration. It's millions and millions of times in magnitudes more clear, distinct, and felt and experienced than anything that we could in the physical. And I see these rocks, and then again, the flames going from my right down to my left. So I look down to my left, and I could just see that this tunnel, this chamber just goes on and on as far as I can see. And then I start to look to my right to kind of see where the flames are coming from. And that's when I saw a man also seated next to me. He's just far enough away that I couldn't touch him. He couldn't touch me. I knew I couldn't talk to him, and he couldn't talk to me. But what's interesting is as soon as I saw him, I knew everything about him instantly. Everything. Just that quick. And just the need to know is I knew his name was James. I knew he died at the age of 55 from a heart attack. And I also knew that he did not value his body. He did not value his life. And he especially did not value God. He wanted nothing to do with God. And if there was a God, he hated his guts. That's how he lived his life. And this man was obese. And I found it shocking that even in hell, he was obese. And on his stomach, you know, and he's consumed in the flames too, obviously. On his stomach, these bubbles would begin to form, like boiling bubbles from the heat. And then they would pop, and the smoke and stench would roll up his body right into his nostrils and go down into him. And he just had to face, he was just constant. It was just, it's ever before you. The way you live here on earth is ever before you and always against you in hell. And he looked up, again, he had nothing but black sockets too. He looked up towards heaven as if pleading. But even I knew it was a waste of time. It was too late for him. And I could feel that in him. It's too late. And his head went down, and he began bobbing his head and sobbing. But there are no tears in hell. But he just sobbed. And as far as I know, he wasn't aware of my presence. He never acknowledged my presence. He never said a word. But I was forced to see his torment for my own torment. I don't want to forget to mention too that looking at my body too, just the whole of me, it was just this skinny, frail corpse. That's all it looked like. I always forget the guy's name, that Iceman that they found on some iceberg, thousands of years old, well preserved, Uzi or Orzi the Iceman, they called him. I remember watching a documentary, and they were showing the corpse, that they had found, and I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, that's exactly what I look like. That's what I look like. If you can think of that, Julie, and put a picture of it if you'd like, because I know that'll shock people too, to see that. No joke, that is exactly what I look like. Was Ozzy the Iceman, whatever. And on my body, these worms, they were about 6 to maybe 8 inches long. They're all kind of different size, but they were kind of a cloudy white looking number, and they clung to my arms and on all over my body too. And they were absolutely sickening. It wasn't like a leech, because they look more like worms, but they would stick to your body and just sear you. And they would kind of crawl like an inchworm would. They'd kind of come up and just crawl. And the smell that came from them was by far the worst. By far the worst of any of the smells. And then they just, and the fire just went right through them. It consumed me and ate me alive, but it went right through these worms. And then they would begin burrowing into my arms and into my body and just eating their way through me. And I mean, just when you think these flames can't be bad enough, now you have these worms violating you like that, crawling wherever they want to, in and through you, just eating their way. It's like having a white hot nail slowly pulled through your veins. It was just that horrible. I'm just, okay. So now I'm desperate for something else. But the more I looked, the worse things were getting, but you just can't help yourself. You're that desperate. And I remember thinking, like, what is this place? Where is everybody? I feel so alone. I just feel alone. Even, a guy sitting next to me, but you're alone. You've never felt so alone like I did in that moment. And as soon as I thought that, I began hearing the screams of millions and millions and millions of people. And oh, my heart, hearing them scream and wail in torment. I mean, we see these little clips, online, and they just don't even touch it. Nothing that you've ever seen, no video. I wish I could, and hope prayerfully maybe someday I can make something that might even come close to what I saw. We're so desensitized by the stuff Hollywood's putting out anymore, the horror and the films. I don't watch that obviously anymore, but even the point, before I repented of watching that, I was so desensitized. But in hell, it is so real, and you're shocked at just hearing these people scream. It made me sick to my stomach. Um, all of that was the first level of torments.
Hmm. So there's other levels. What else did you see then?
Yeah. So from there, I couldn't handle the screaming. Just couldn't handle it. And so out of desperation, I got to get something. I can't listen. I can't hear that. I can't handle that because it's real. This is real. These people are really screaming like me. And so I'm just desperately searching for something, anything. And then suddenly in front of me, where the rock is, I began seeing these black shadows darting just very quickly. I could see them darting in and out of the flames. I could see them going in and out and through the rock as they pleased. But it's so frustrating trying to describe evil.
Yeah.
They were about 3 to 4 feet tall and pure black. A black that I never knew could possibly exist. The only possible way I could even try to describe them was that if a black hole in our universe could take on bipedal form, it was that powerful of an evil. And it was so thick. I knew it for a fact. I could go like this and just pinch the evil in between my fingers.
Mm.
You know, again, if something's my opinion, I'll just state it as such, and I'm always open. But after what I experienced, I'm personally convinced that what we experience here on Earth is the aftermath of obliging evil that comes from the enemy, being led to commit murders and genocides and all these things. They're just horrible, but it's not the essence of evil itself. We're experiencing what happens when someone obliges it. What I saw in these things, I was staring at, and I was in the presence of the absolute source of pure evil, unimaginable. It was so bad. It was so terrifying. Everything else was terrifying, but now I'm experiencing terror on a whole new level. And it was so bad that I completely froze. The fact that our physical brain can only handle so much is one thing. And then you get into the supernatural realm, and it's just so far beyond this physical realm. I'm in the spirit realm, and the evil coming from these things was so bad, even my spirit body couldn't handle it. That's how bad it was. My spirit body could not handle this evil, and I became stiff as a board, which meant I stopped screaming. And that was very bad. The instant I stopped screaming, 3 of them ran up to me so fast. And again, I'm seated, and just in case too, being in a seated, more comfortable position while you're experiencing torments unspeakable is yet another form of torment, by the way. I'm seated and I can't go anywhere. So there's one in front of me, one to my left, one to my right. The 2 on my right and left, they grab my wrists and they jerk my hands up in the air. In hell, you cannot fight back. You have no strength whatsoever. Imagine not sleeping for an entire month. For 1 month, not even 1 second of sleep. And for that month, no food. And for that month, no water. That's how I felt in hell. They jerked my hands up and I could do nothing. And then the one in the middle, suddenly it had a wooden plank in its hands. And it slammed the plank down on my lap. And then when I looked back up to it, it suddenly had a nail in one hand, or nails in one hand, and a hammer in the other. And I instantly knew this was pure mockery of Jesus. The 2 forced my hands down on the plank, and the one in the middle, it puts a nail on my finger, and it begins driving the hammer like this, just smacking it. And the first hit of the nail went right through my finger. The second hit pretty much cracked it, and my finger went off to the side. And then the third hit bent the nail over, And then from there, it didn't care if it was hitting nails or smashing my fingers, and it was just going back and forth. And its head was back like this, and it was cackling, like this wild, insane cackling noise, just hitting like this. And suddenly I could feel the pain again, and I began screaming again. It felt like lightning bolts were going up and down my arms. I have no idea. You're so desperate. You're so desperate. I remembered I looked to the demon at my left, and I was about to beg it for mercy, even though I knew it was a complete waste. But it was all I could do is just beg it for some kind of mercy. And when I saw it, I suddenly saw it in its full manifestation. It was no longer a black shadow. And it was absolutely horrible. It was just the most horrible entity I've ever seen. The best I could is because I'm an artist, right? I write music, I draw. If it's artsy, I do it. I've had people like, could you draw it? I'm like, I could, but I don't want to. I don't want to entertain them at all. But it looked like part man, part wolf, part bear, and part pig or hog. If you took all of those and mashed it into an entity, its skin was just rotting and disgusting yellow, and its teeth were just razor sharp. They were all crooked and nasty, but razor sharp. And then its eyes were like a lizard, but they were blood red. And it had a black cloak on too. And as I'm screaming and I'm looking at it with eyes just, trying to beg for mercy, when I started screaming again, I saw the demon's head go back and its eyes became euphoric. And I could tell it was high on my pain. It was high on my pain. And that I come to know was the second level of torments of hell, is what the demons do to you while you're there. Things I can't even describe. They're that horrible. Things unimaginable they do to you.
Did you see another level?
Yes, then it's amazing. It just blows my mind now when I think back to this experience, that just when you think it can't get any worse, you realize you've only just begun. You've only just begun. Then, now I realize that this was the Lord revealing this to me one at a time. If I had to experience it all at once, I don't think I would have survived. I just don't see how I could have. So he was allowing me to see this in these layers, if you will. In that moment, it was as if the demons disappeared and the flames of hell, they were still there, obviously, and everything was still there, but it was felt at much less capacity because there was a new reality that I needed to grasp. And that new reality for me was the word forever. Up until that moment, I just took that concept of eternity with a grain of salt. And I had always figured I'll understand it in that day. In that day, I'm with, the Lord. I'll get it. I just can't get it. Everything's temporal here. So how could I get it? And that's another reason why I know this was not a dream, because in that moment, I understood eternity perfectly. I understood it simply. Just like we get 1 + 1 = 2 here, I understood eternity. And the level of doom that came over me, I knew that I was going to be in this place forever and ever and ever and ever, with no end at all. After I'd been there for 1 trillion years, I was only just beginning. And I would scream and scream and scream, but I had to scream at an amplitude that was pleasing to hell. Because if I didn't, the demons would come back and do even worse things to me. And that reality of eternity was so foreboding. My heart became like an empty nothingness. I knew for a fact I deserved to be here. I knew at that moment where I was. I'm in hell. And suddenly that realization of, again, this was the Lord showing me what it's like to be a person who rejected him, because I knew I rejected him my whole life. He reached out to me in so many different ways, through so many different people, all throughout my life, and I rejected him every single time without just cause. I rejected him because I wanted to be God. I wanted what I wanted. My will be done, not your will, God. I don't want anything to do with this God, because I want to be God. And I deserve this. I was going to be here forever. These demons are insane with hatred. They're out of their minds with hatred. There's no bribing the demons. The only conversation you're having with the demon is screaming. That's your conversation with them while they cackle and laugh at you. They will mutilate you and use your body parts to beat on you with. Things, just unimaginable things. And I just knew this was my forever. There was no break. There was no pause. There was no rest. Not even for 1 second. No rest. None. Zero. Screaming and screaming and screaming and screaming for the ever and ever and ever and ever. And that reality of eternity, that was the third level of torments.
And then what?
Then God showed me the worst part about hell. I knew in that moment I would never see God again. And that was the fourth and final torment. And of all the torments of hell, nothing touches when you know you will never see the one who created you, who knew you intimately before he even spoke the universe into existence, who made you uniquely you and loves you for who you are. The one who spent your whole life offering you life and freedom and peace and purpose and a destiny in him that's eternal and goes on forever. And I spent my whole life believing in anyone or anything but him. Everything else goes, but no Jesus. No. And I would never see God again. And when that reality came over me, I know now that I could not take that. I could not handle that. I was just done. I couldn't. I was about to lose my mind. And the last thing I remembered feeling was this. I didn't hear words from the Lord, but I felt the essence of what he wanted me to know. This is what happens to people who reject the Lord. There's no other place for you to go.
Now you hear when he said, like, this is not a dream. He felt like he know what a dream is. He a grown man. He don't, this wasn't a dream. They feel like this is somewhere that they really been, you know what I'm saying, within this dream. It wasn't like it was instantly when they blinked their eyes, you know what I'm saying? And for them to say that and somebody else to say that, and it's just something to consider. Like, what if it's really like that down there? If you believe in heaven, you believe in hell, if it's really like that down there, that really just means you don't want to be down there. And if you don't want to be down there, it's just, you just take baby steps to just fixing things that's in your world that you know ain't right. That's the Lord know you can't be perfect. So he just wants you to slowly but surely start doing what you can to fix what's in your world that ain't right. Because you don't want to be down there. As you can see, it's horrendous to them. You know what I'm saying? They can't even focus. So you just gotta at least try to change something.
That's pretty much it. So on March 22nd, 2017, I went to sleep late that night, and when I went to sleep, I ended up my soul, my spirit ended up basically in this room with this dark room. There was two individuals in a room. I don't believe that they were people. It just seemed like they were kind of talking about something like about God, but they weren't talking about him. I couldn't really remember what they were talking about. And one of them had pulled out a joint, basically, like he was like about to smoke a joint. I remember knocking out the joint out of his hand. But for me to do that, I had to get up from the position I was laid in, because I was laid vertically on like my couch, but in the same place, in this place where I was also laid the same exact way. And as I knocked it out of his hand, I fell over. When I fell over, I literally ended up in this place. And this place was just a place of outer darkness. It was complete darkness. It was nothing but darkness. I couldn't see anything in front of me. I couldn't see my hands in front of me. I couldn't see or even feel like as if I had any kind of knowledge of where I was or the place I was in. And I was like even trying to pull my hands in front of me, and I couldn't see my hands in front of me. And as I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because, even in this world, like when you're trying to look through something, you give it a moment expecting for your vision to adjust and for you to see more clearly, like if it's in the dark or whatever. And so I'm waiting to see for it to adjust and to see more clearly. And it remained complete darkness. And I'm talking about thick darkness. And like maybe within a minute or so of being there, like a small light began to dim a little bit behind me, as if it was something. I don't know if the light was from me or if it was a small light behind me that was allowed me to see began to open up and allow me to see where I was and what I was seeing. And the thing that I was seeing was the most horrifying, terrifying thing that anybody could ever account for in this world. And what I mean by that is what I had seen was literally a sea of people, and the people were just in silhouettes. So it seemed as if though this was a place where those who had just died are now coming up from, and you're now seeing the sea of people who are all coming up and who have either passed or they died or they're here for the most part. These are people that are here, and there's no physical descriptions of them. They're just literally silhouettes. Like it's almost like they're I can only see their shadow image of them, and they're in front of me and they're around me. And you're talking about trillions of people. As far as my eyes can see, if you ever attended a concert or any public gathering, or even looked through TV and you've seen large amounts of people all in one place, or in a place where as you look ahead you see like a large crowd, you can still pretty much see past people. You can see a landscape still. This place was so many people that the landscape was people. As far as my eyes can see, there were people. As far to my left and to my right, as far as I can see, I'm seeing people, and everybody there is no interaction amongst us. Nobody's interacting with anybody. And immediately the fear that was there, it was like it was controlling the environment. It was like at that moment I had nothing but questions. I was trying to figure out where I was, why am I here? Wow. First of all, why the appearance and the setting was so scary in itself that I'm trying to figure out, what is this? What's going on? Am I in a dream? Like, what's going on? What's happening? And as soon as I begin to try to figure out what's going on, and right now I'm at from this moment on, I'm at a very, very, very high level of fear, and it remained that way the entire time. And it wasn't because nothing actually about the experience made it scary. Fear was literally just a part of my being. I could not be nothing but absolutely scared. And I'm talking about scared or fear, like to the point where when somebody just scares you, you get immediately scared. You may burst out, you may yell or something because you're scared, and then it begins to come down. But I'm talking about fear that stays at that level, as if somebody had just, you just got caught at the highest point of how scared you were, or what fear you had, and that's all that you have the entire time. It doesn't come down. So you're like, feel like as if you basically shouldn't be able to breathe, or be normal, even handle yourself to assess anything, or to use your cognitive skills or anything like that, because you're literally in this much fear. You're still able to just be in this much fear and not know what's going on. And so literally, I would say like maybe there's no time, so I can't say what moments of time. I know that from there, I then had been moved to these what appeared to be these caves, and so I had moved, not walked, but it was like a moving thing, like a force had brought me over to these caves, as if this is where these caves where I was supposed to go and belong. And then now it had gotten dark again to where I couldn't really see. So I'm trying to navigate through caves, and I'm kind of bumping into these fixed boundaries. I don't know what it is, where it was, but I'm just, okay, I would either go right or I would either go left. I would either turn left or then I would turn right. And I'm trying to find my way through, and I couldn't find my way through until I eventually got into this one place where it was a cave. It was a cave, and it descriptively just like a cave, but it was somewhat put into like I would say it's a club setting, but I didn't see any bars. I'm not seeing any drinking. I don't see anything like that. I just see people seem to be dancing without any music at all. No music at all. I'm not hearing any music at all, but people are almost like slow dancing as if they're just bopping their head to a tune, but there's no music playing at all. And as I'm trying to really look upon what's going on and who are these people that I'm looking at, like what's going on? Why? Because I'm still at the same height of fear. So I'm still trying to figure out how can anybody be literally enjoying their dance or whatever they're doing in this kind of environment, like in this environment. And so I look over, and then I see this young, this appeared to be the only being that was there that somewhat seemed like he recognized me. Everyone else seemed like it was a controlled force as to their bop or their slow motion, two-step or whatever it was. He's looking at me. As he's looking at me, he has on these dark shades, and I'm trying to figure out, as I was thinking to myself, like I'm trying to figure out what exactly is like going on with him. Because I'm thinking in my mind, obviously, again, I want to make it clear that like when I was there, when what my thoughts were just as communicative as if you would speak. So as I would think, is how I would be able to move too. So it was like, as I would think I want to go over here to go to this part, because I'm trying to get out the cave before I had gotten to that place. I want to make a left here. I want to go here. As I would think it, boom, I would automatically just go to that place, that particular place. And it wasn't a walk. It was like a force. It was simultaneous. As I thought, then boom, it would happen. And so now back at this cave, and I'm looking at this dude, and he's like two-stepping back and forth. That's when I started to realize that he wasn't enjoying himself, that he was actually in torment. But it seemed like his torment was something that he was going through within himself, but I could not see. So even his gaze upon me was of a cry of help, but there's no communication. You understand what I'm saying? So he's not saying, help me, help me, help me, help me, or he's not able to even show me that he's suffering. It's almost like I knew it, because of the look that he was looking upon me with. That even as I'm looking, but we can't. The slightest bit of interaction is not happening. We can't interact at all whatsoever. And so I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I'm even more scared now. And I'm like, what am I doing in this place? And it was at that moment that I had thought, and it came to me that I was like, am I dead? Am I in hell? And I couldn't. That's all that was boggling over my mind, like, oh my God, I think I died. What happened? How did I get here? What am I doing here? Was the next question. It was like, what am I doing here? How did I get here? Did I die? What's going on? What's going on? Is literally the only thought of what I have about this present time. And even as I was even thinking that, I'm like, what's going on? I remember at that time, I didn't even think of like, the Lord, or, my personal faith and my belief in Jesus Christ. I was, at this point, I was still pretty much being tormented by my own fear of where I was, and if this is where I belong. And then the next thought was like, but I thought that I'm a Christian. Like, what am I doing here? I'm a Christian. I didn't understand. Why would I be here if I'm a Christian? What am I doing here if I'm a Christian? What is this my judgment? Is this where I'm supposed to be? It's more than confusion, because when you say confusion, when I speak of it, it almost in our realm, it makes it seem like as if you're able to think this way and have these kind of thoughts without necessarily feeling the effects of everything else. But the other feelings and everything else, the fear and everything else never left. So I still have that. So it's almost like as if it's almost like, when people say that their life flashed before their eyes, or that things had happened so badly that in that moment, as something bad was about to happen, time has slowed down for them, even though something bad was happening at the same time. Somewhat similar to that, but to 100 degrees more. You're able to still feel exactly the fear that you felt, and still have a bunch of this knowledge about where you are and why. Because the funny thing is, I asked myself, I said, am I in hell? Even though even in my own knowledge, I knew I was in hell. But I don't know why I'm even still asking myself, why am I in hell? Why am I here? But I knew I was in hell. I had the knowledge that I was in hell. I had the knowledge that everyone here is in hell. Everybody here is in hell. And so I'm like, what's going on? So all this is still happening simultaneously, and I'm still scared. The amount of fear there is like, how am I able to feel this feeling this intense? If even thinking that if this was a dream, how am I able to feel it this intense? And I've never felt my senses to be heightened at this level in a dream. So that's why the thoughts of being dead was the only thing that I could think of. How did I die? Did I die? And what am I doing here? So anyway, I'm looking upon him, and this guy is literally in torment. I was already frantically in fear and at a high level. But when I seen that upon him, and it was dawning on me that I was that I already knew it, but it was dawning on me that I was in hell. It caused me to, even be more frantic. So I immediately, I'm looking for an exit. Where's the next place I can get out of? I think, to go over here. I go towards the end of the room because I almost don't even want any of them to really even see me here. I don't even feel like I belong here. I'm trying to get out. And so in my attempt to try to get out, I go towards the other corner of the room. As I'm going to the other corner, of the cave, as I go to the other side of the cave, I can't see anything. So I'm still trying to figure out what way am I going and not going. And then even out of a form of desperation, I try to basically escape to see if there's a way I can go up. If I can go upward, is there a way I can get out to go up? Is there even an up? And I don't even remember being able to look up, because remember, you don't. As you think it, so is it happening? So even as I'm saying, I want to go up, or can I go up? Simultaneously, I'm already trying to go up, and I realized that I was at the ceiling of this place, but it was a fixed boundary, and I couldn't feel what the boundary was. All I knew was that from the point of the ceiling of feeling this fixed boundary, I felt immense heat. The amount of heat that I felt on top of me, was so scary. I'm trying to explain it to you guys, and you have to understand that, for me to even do this, if people know me, for me to even do this is more than if you know my character, is more than enough to at least let people know that this is serious for me to get to this level, to explain it, to talk about it at this level, because I'm somebody that I'm not really that open to just letting everybody into my life, and and be open with my life, whether it's on social media or whatever it is, anything in this life. I'm not just open like that. I'm more of a secretive person, and so as I'm hitting the ceiling and I'm feeling this immense heat, right then and there, I was like, oh my God, I'm in hell. I couldn't even believe that I'm in hell, and that now I can actually feel the heat that is above me. The heat was so intense, even from what was above me, that I'm not seeing any physical flames, but this heat felt like as if even now, if I press my way forward, that it was enough for me to say, I don't even want to go up, because I knew that this fire would consume me, because the heat felt like real life. It felt like I was like real life heat. It still felt like the heat that you would feel here. As if you put your hand over a stove, you would feel the heat. Like you would literally feel the heat. You would feel the intense heat. And it was even hotter than what you would consider to be a stove. So even as I'm going up, it's like, and I'm coming back down like, oh my God, where's all that heat coming from? Why is there this much heat on top of me? And so I'm just frantically trying to figure out where I was, what's going on. And I remember trying to say, at that point, I was like, when it had said that I'm in hell, the only thing I could think of was to be calling out Jesus' name. I'm calling out Jesus' name. And nothing is happening. I'm saying, Jesus, 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 what's going on? Jesus, Jesus. And as I'm saying, Jesus, 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 nothing is happening. And then I heard an audible voice explaining to me that this is how it is down here. And that it's not what you think, that it's actually Mary down here, and that, you know, these people were enjoying themselves, the people that I had seen that were in the club. And I didn't really know who this audible voice was, but I understood what he was saying. I understood what was trying to be told to me, because again, there was no physical thing in front of me. I wasn't seeing a spiritual being. He was able to communicate with me through my thought in my own head, just to talk to me somewhat in the same way that we have voices here in our own heads now, here as we're on earth. And so he's telling me that it's Mary down here, that I should have no fear to want to come down here, and that I could do as I want, I could live as I want, and I could be here, and I would be Mary. It would be Mary. It wouldn't be an issue. There wouldn't be a problem. And even as he's saying this, so when he got towards the point where he's basically trying to convince me in my mind and my spirit, and I'm thinking like, yo, I'm like, nah, this isn't true. What are you talking about? I'm thinking like this. I'm horrified. I'm horrified. No way. No way am I coming here. No way will I be here. Like, without a doubt, there's no way for anybody that I would come here. I would be here. I would even want to be here. I would even consider it. And so I'm thinking, and this is after me saying, Jesus, I'm like, what's going on? And then I remember when I was saying that, I just went back to reverting to saying, Jesus, like, get me a Jesus, like, what's going on? Why is, I'm saying your name, like, Jesus, what's going on? And as I'm saying his name, that audible voice then got louder. And now the audible voice now was yelling at me. And what appeared in front of me seemed to be like an eye. It was an eye. It was a large eye. It was a large eye. And I remember the eye was not any eye we've ever seen on this earth. It was an eye that even appeared to have different arrays of colors in the pupil. It was a different kind of eye. And I knew that then this eye was what the voice was that I was hearing, because as he now was yelling, he said to me, you dare use that name down here? You dare use that name as I've already been showing you everything down here? You dare use that name? But this was like, it's hard to explain it. It sounds like I'm saying it as if he said it that proper. And like, so to think, you have to understand that even as proper as saying that you dare use that name, that the voice that he used in saying it was a roaring, yelling, a very intimidating like voice. It was like you dare use that name. And it was so some similar like that, but heightened. I'm not doing a good job of saying it the same exact way, but it was basically infuriated that I even was saying Jesus as I was down there, and from what I was saying, and he was like, you dare use that name, you dare use that, and he began cursing at me, like, so it was like cursing at me at the same time, like, you dare use that name, blah, blah, blah. And so even now, by seeing the eye alone, I was so frantically scared already, and the only thing in my mind was, this is Lucifer, this is the devil, this is Lucifer here yelling at me in the form of an eye, though, just the form of an eye. I'm like, but so it seemed like as if he wasn't, his presence is somewhat throughout all hell, but obviously he can manifest himself as he wishes, as he pleases. So I'm like, yo, what's going on? I'm like, Jesus, I'm even more scared. I'm saying Jesus even more now. Jesus even more now. Like, oh my God, this is Lucifer. And it was in that moment that, boom, that's when I immediately then woke up. So I didn't have any, there was no light, there was no bright shining light that came and got me. Jesus did not appear to me. None of those things happened. All I experienced is exactly what I told you. And, I woke up in such fear. Even as I woke up, I felt like I can still feel the heat on the top of my head, the heat from the being above, whether that was a lake of fire on top of me, I don't know, but I can still feel the heat. So I woke up and I'm still pretty much like, like I still felt the same terror that I was under when I was there. Now, mind you, everybody may have scary dreams. And if you have a scary dream or something, you wake up and you're still, your level of fear is still pretty much similar to what you feel when somebody scares you. It's high for that moment, a couple seconds, and it goes back down, right? So, but even for me, even now, my coming back into waking up, when the terror and the feeling of the heat, and then the terror that I had wasn't even going away. meaning that it wasn't at the same high level, but as it was going away, it was going away at a slower pace. You understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like, it was a lot less slower, as how if somebody scared me, I would quickly come down and be like, okay, yeah, well, that was you, I'm not funny, whatever. This was entirely different. This was, I could almost still feel, even it's 2 days now, it's been 2 days, and I could almost still feel the terror of being there. And it's hard to describe that, because when you say terror, people here with our senses, we only equate terror to maybe what we see, right? Maybe we see something that makes us terrified, or you're in a movie, something is going on that is, terror is a sense that is induced, and it can raise or be high, or whatever. I was still feeling the terror of it being at a high level and not going away, and it was coming down slowly, and I was still frantic. I was scared. I was still feeling the heat.